Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. Our city calls itself a town and feels like a village when we meet each other halfway. And we work together to grow our harmony, our prosperity, and our livability. Today, we're going to discuss a key aspect of livability, which is keeping everybody fed. And in our present circumstances, we've had an incredible boom in demand for food banks. And joining us today to explore what we're doing about that in Oakville and in Halton are Karen Randall and Donna Slater, both from Food for Life. Karen is the executive director, and Donna is the director of impact. And I'm a fan of titles, and so it might be fun to tease each other about our titles. But let's get right into it. I'm very excited about a new initiative that I hope we're going to be launching next month, in the next month or so, which maybe wind up being called Feed Halton. And it's a project that I think of as being under the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan's food table. Quick digression: the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan for the region of Halton was my special baby, and in my view, of course, it's a huge success. And to try to prove that to you, I'll just mention that when other municipalities ask the province what they're supposed to do for a community safety and well-being plan, the province has been handing out ours and saying, just do this. So, Ms. Randall, Karen, may I call you? And Ms. Slater,
Yes.
Donna, may I call you? Please call me Rob. Um, let's see what you can tell us about Feed Halton and your role in it.
Yeah, well, having been very new to Food for Life, this is my sixth week there. I can
Well, what I'm
provide.
talking about is we've had a long-term
Yeah,
hope to develop a distribution center to
yeah,
really leverage up the benefit of having Food for Life, which I'll just call the food bank for the food banks. Is that, can I get away with that
yeah,
brief description?
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's delve into the long process of bringing to life Feed Halton, the distribution center.
Yeah, well, I would say from an emergency food perspective and a food securities perspective, we're going to see the greatest impact and we're going to see the greatest outcomes in people's lives when we work together as a system and that we have a positive spirit of collaboration. And so I believe that Feed Halton is really going to be reflective of that, the recognition that every program that's providing this type of support in the community has their own expertise in their own area where they do work. And when we bring it all together, I think we make the greatest impact in the community. So I think Feed Halton is going to be a more formalized way of demonstrating that systems approach to food insecurity.
Yeah, and you know the council of the regional municipality of Halton, of which Burlington, Halton Hills, Milton, and Oakville are the alphabetically ordered members. We've been seeing the wisdom of a food bank for the food banks for quite a few years. It's so long ago I don't remember when we started supporting Food for Life and welcoming Food for Life in its expansion into Halton. Um, so you have a number of other programs, and I guess before we run too far away from Feed Halton, for any members of council who may be watching, there's going to be a report in the next month or two with a proposal that we back this and excitingly unlock some major private sector donations. So this could be huge for food security. It'd be a big escalation in what we're doing and achieving. Now, meanwhile, for years, Food for Life has been here, and you've got many programs. Uh, let's just cover those so that people know that you're not a Johnny come lately and that you do plenty of other things. What's your Donna? What's your most impactful program, would you say?
I think it's hard to to point out one specific program because the needs in each community are so different. And Food for
Okay.
Life has been around for over 25 years. And we are all throughout Halton in various communities running programs weekly. And individuals can come and access weekly at these program locations. So we've been able to partner with many different organizations, have that be a local church, have that be the library, have that be a local agency. Where you were saying or are saying how we are food bank of food banks is that to the extent of us supporting many of the agencies where we're able to kind of work alongside them, provide them with additional food resources where 80% of what we bring in is fresh. So that is really what we're offering to many of the agencies we work with. And then from our program standpoint, we work with various volunteer groups to run those weekly access points within the community. And one big initiative that we took underway was the markets, which many have heard about. So we have our Mountainside Market that runs in Burlington, and we have our Tremaine Market running in Milton. And those have been very impactful just around the sheer volume of food that individuals can walk away with, where on average, we're looking at about 40 pounds of food. So a lot of what we do when we look at the program model is try to really increase the amount of food available at different locations. And another example of that is the program we run right in Town Hall there every Wednesday. And initially when we started that program, in the early parts of this year, we were only bringing in about, well, not only, but we were bringing in about 2,000 pounds of food, where just recently, when I was looking at our November stats, we were bringing in close to 6,000 pounds of food per month to support the individuals coming to that program.
I was hoping that you'd mention the food bank operation in my town hall, because I've certainly been promoting it, and I'm very proud of what you've done there. Now, I understand that you've got a lot of private sector support. Do you have a program to generate corporate support?
Yeah, we have a resource development department who works with both corporate sponsors and corporate donors, as well as individual donors and grant supports. We do have a corporate champions program where we invite different corporations to come in and offer support to Food for Life in various different ways. One of them being if they want to provide monetary donations to us or do an event or a fundraiser and support. But also we have opportunities for teams to come in and participate in actually building the food packs that we give out through these various programs. So we have a really good balance of different people from corporations to individual donors supporting the programs and the work that we're doing in the community.
So it's good to give businesses who care a chance to show it, right?
Absolutely.
And what about I've heard of Food Connect. What's the story there? Or have I not heard have I not heard right?
Yeah, so Halton Food Connect is a program that actually demonstrates the power of that collaboration I was speaking to earlier, where Food for Life, Kerr Street Mission, and Burlington Food Bank came together to deliver a food program for people who are on Ontario Works in the Halton region. So that program is a once a month home delivery program of nutritious, fresh food to any household who signs up for it. And signing up for it is as simple as people reaching out to their Ontario Works case manager and getting registered for the program. The program was developed to replace the previous food support program through providing gift cards. And the impact of that was that people get about twice as much food through actual food delivery versus the gift card delivery. So it's been a really incredible program in terms of the amount of food we're able to distribute to households, but also to demonstrate how impactful it is when we work together towards a common goal.
I remember when the notion of just give them money appeared years ago, and it's interesting to see that, yeah, that was a little more idealistic than reality supports, I guess, would be. So it's good to see we're back on path. Now, I hear from kids all the time wanting to do things for the community. Do kids reach out to you looking for chances to help? What happens there on that front?
For sure. Yep. We invite kids into our warehouse to work alongside their parents, depending on the age that they are. But actually last year we ran an initiative. It was an educational program that actually was developed by one of our volunteers who was an educator around food rescue, food composting, and so forth. So we were able to bring in over 200 kids into the warehouse to walk them through the whole cycle of food, essentially. So how does this food get to us? What do we do with it when it comes here? What are we going to do with it to prolong its life, per se? And then how do we go about composting it and so forth? So that's been a really cool and eye-opening experience, especially when you get the kids in and you start chatting with them and they're talking about best before dates and, oh, this apple has a bruise, I need to toss it out. And you're like, no, we can save this, we can cook this. So it's kind of, it's an interesting learning for the kids. And what's also become quite interesting with it is bringing the kids in, parents then getting interested, them coming back in with their kids, and then let's say the child isn't able to come in anymore, we still have the volunteer, the parent come in as well, and work alongside and volunteer with us. So it's been a pretty cool experience, all in all, having those groups of kids in. And then we've also been able to work very closely with the Gift of Giving Back, which is well known within the Burlington as well as the Oakville community. We're there too. We were able to work alongside the different sports teams coming in, sorting food, and really just people getting a better understanding of the life cycle of food.
Yeah, I'll fish for an answer here. Have you heard from the Oakville Blades on that front?
We have, yes, we have. They work very closely with the Gift of Giving Back, doing many food drives for them. Yeah.
Well, I shamelessly fished for a plug for my favorite hockey team. So thank you for that.
That's good.
But we walked right up to the door of an interesting problem because it's got more than one facet, and that's food waste.
Mhm.
One of the things that we're learning as we battle climate change is that food and food waste in particular. But anyway, food's a source of greenhouse gases, and it makes it more important than ever how we deal with food, and wasting it seems like a good way to generate more greenhouse gas than we needed to. So it was very good of you to describe the way you're tackling that head on. Late last year, when I was Michael Bloomberg's guest at COP28 for the local climate action summit, one of the things that we learned was at the local level, we should deal with the local problem and not try to substitute ourselves for the national government's ability to do problem solving and measures to help at the national level of the problem, if I can summarize it that way. Do you depend upon volunteers at all in your regular day-to-day operations? Is volunteer sourcing and recruiting a problem for you?
Do you want to go? You can answer this one, Karen.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, one of the things that drew me to Food for Life when I was first contemplating making the change in my career to come on board with this organization was a conversation I had with the leadership team where they talked about how volunteers really are who make the programs happen, that there is a small staff team at Food for Life, but wholly we rely on the generosity of volunteers to not only support the operations and running our programs, but support the sorting and the packing and the, making sure things are going where they need to go, and understanding, different types of food. Like Donna was saying, needs are very different in different communities. And so I would say that volunteers are one of the biggest reasons we have the impact that we have. And as it currently stands, we have a very robust volunteer team. I don't believe that we're having any difficulties recruiting them. Donna, you might know better if that's not the fact.
Yeah, no, exactly. Our volunteers, we're very blessed to have the group that we have. And we have some volunteer teams in community that have been with us since the very beginning. So over 20 years, they've been volunteering with us, supporting their community. So they're very dedicated groups of individuals that when we have an ask for them, they're very open to working alongside and really serving their community. And specifically too in Oakville, I can think of many, many different groups that week in, week out, they're there to support. And what's interesting with some of our programming is it's the volunteers within the building. So they themselves are recipients of the program, and they are also running the program. So they're not only they're neighbors, but they're also volunteers supporting those they live with. So it's a pretty great experience all around.
Yeah, it's proud making for our community, and I'm sure for the rest of Halton and the other areas where Food for Life works. But I hear from our local food banks and others in the helping field that the pressure that's on society right now is generating a a very nice increase in donations and in volunteering. And if you're hearing that, let that and you're interested, let that be encouragement to pitch in and join in. You'll make new friends and have new things to do. Um, now, one of the things at the town that we introduced around our annual budgeting for the municipal services that we deliver is a thoroughgoing program of key performance indicators or measurement metrics. And and I was interviewed this morning by the media wondering why our tax increase was so much lower than everybody else's. And I had to point to that because, we've been doing that for a good 15 years now. And you do stuff over and over, eventually you get better at it. So what kind of pressure are you under to measure your performance or collect and distribute key performance indicators, the infamous KPIs?
I can speak specifically to our programming and volunteers in that because Food for Life is very much a service, we serve is essentially what we do. So we do want to hear and understand how we're doing. So we ourselves have a research team of one person who basically goes out and we twice a year we go out to our neighbors and understand and learn and listen from them around how are we doing from a service standpoint, what food items are we meeting the needs that you're seeing. Also within our volunteer team, we're continually having conversations with them, as well as surveying them too once a year just to hear back and so forth. And then from the service standpoint with our agency partners, it's that constant dialogue, but there too, it is also this idea of interviewing, surveying with them to see if we are meeting their needs essentially. So those are key pieces. And I'm not sure, Karen, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, we are just at the beginning stages of starting our next strategic planning process, and those consultations and getting that feedback from our service users, our neighbors, our community partners, our volunteers, our donors, our staff, and everyone who is connected with Food for Life is really important to help us not only understand the impact in the work that we're doing in areas where we can improve and grow, but also help us decide where we want to move in the future and what areas we need to focus on that perhaps we haven't. So I think the ongoing check-in with the neighbors and volunteers is a really important piece, as is the bigger picture feedback we use to develop our strategic plans.
Sure. And at the community safety and well-being table, there's an associated regional fund of several $1 million now. When I became mayor 17, 18 years ago, it was $300,000, and it's closer to 4 million now. And what we've done over the years is taken it from the old system where politicians decided which charities would get what to a program and service contract driven system where staff evaluate on KPI related criteria who's going to get what in the measuring them on what they're going to do and using for credibility what they've done. Mm-hmm. And in the last couple of years, once we started the community safety and well-being plan, we hooked up together the community safety and well-being plan with the Halton Community Investment Fund. So the pressure on you from regional staff to produce KPIs and metrics, and it's probably going to increase if it hasn't already, But it sounds like you're ready for it, and that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, there's always the side where we want to demonstrate to our funders and our supporters the work that we're doing has an impact, but we also want to ensure for the people who rely on our programs that we're meeting their needs. There's not a lot of value of us raising money and doing programs that aren't actually helping people in the community. So those are the two real key pieces for us, obviously, from that funding standpoint, but also just to ensure that we're meeting that urgent need of people experiencing hunger.
Well, I can see one KPI every Wednesday at Town Hall when people line up to get the benefit of the food bank that you're
Mhm.
operating there. Um, uh, I'm also curious about social impact research. My wife works in education in this, I'll call it the social science sector. And I might have been prompted to ask you about social impact research. Uh, have you, what can you share on that front with us?
For sure. So, as I mentioned before, so we do have a researcher on staff who leads a lot of our research initiatives. And one piece that we've been really focusing in on is the food insecurity index scale, essentially. And what that is about is connecting with our neighbors and understanding where they fall on this scale. And what it does is it measures where around the food insecurity. So essentially, what we do is we go in and we ask our neighbors these specific questions. And months later, years later, we'll ask the same questions to see if our programs have actually made a difference in their lives around the food insecurity scale. And this has been a real driver with many programs around how we deliver the program, the amount of food at programs, as well as the types of food at programs, because that too may change. So a lot of that research has been, or we've been focusing on doing those research at many of our other programs.
So it sounds like instead of calling people clients or participants or recipients, you're labeling them as neighbors, which is a way more friendlier approach, it
Mhm.
sounds to me.
Yeah, we did that. It's interesting because we actually made that change probably almost 7 years ago, where they used to be called clients, and we felt it not very inviting. And they aren't really our clients, they are very much our neighbors, where our programs run in neighborhoods. It's people who volunteered our programs, they're neighbors to the people that are coming in. So it just seemed to be more of that inviting feel, essentially.
Now, given the pressure that everybody's under with inflation still not down, and it certainly seems like the employment market is confusing at best because people report that they can't get a job, and yet employers report that they can't get employees. So there's a real mismatch going on there. But the net result is we've got this huge increase in neighbors using our services, our food banks. So I'm curious, um, the is there a need for like a cutoff or some kind of criteria to qualify to get from a food bank? Are you seeing food banks uh, doing that, asking for qualification? I guess I call it. I don't know what to call it.
Mhm. I would say in the emergency food sector over the past 5 years, there's actually been significant movement away from asking people for any means testing or any information that would qualify them or disqualify them. And I think that really just comes from the notion that, or the understanding that people don't typically come to emergency food programs if they don't need it. That there really isn't this sense of people are going to come and get free food even though they can afford it. There's really there's no benefit in having someone else decide what your household is going to eat based on what's donated that particular week. So I think just in terms of trying to keep people's dignity intact and ensure that our programs are inviting and inclusive, we don't have that means testing or any qualifications in place. There are some demographic pieces that we will collect, but that's more to have a better understanding of who's coming to our programs and to be able to ensure we're meeting the needs of the people coming. But I think what we're seeing right now is poverty is not only deepening for people, but also widening and impacting more people. So for us, the biggest challenge is really to ensure that we have appropriate food and quality food to meet those increasing needs so that we don't have to turn people away.
Well, we do have in Canada this LICO, the low income
Mhm.
cutoff scale that we use on people according to size of the family and income and so on. And I've been concerned that the LICO numbers don't go up
Mhm.
uh, in tandem with inflation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're always lagging behind.
Yeah,
It's
they're also very subjective to a lot of different things, like where somebody lives, right? If someone lives in a community where the cost of living is significantly lower versus someone living in Toronto. So I think that's one of the reasons the sector has been moving away from those types of means testing and using those types of scales because it doesn't always give a very accurate story of where that person is in terms of living in poverty or facing food insecurity.
well, in a way, that's the same thing as saying that uh, the helping agencies are not finding the LICO cutoffs accurate or useful
Mhm.
anymore, and so we're ignoring them. And maybe the governments who set them could take a clue from that evidence if they're into using evidence for their policies. Well, you're delightful to chat with. I hope we can do this again. Someday I'd like to have chats in person instead of virtually. Uh, and once upon a time, this TV show was actually done in a studio, and we still had this kind of conviviality to it. So thank you very much for making time today. And thank you for tuning in and listening and watching to this important topic. And if there's anything you'd like to see on Oakville Matters, you know how to reach me, mayor at oakville.ca. And until then, we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.